Starting up. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Broadjam Music Licensing Hangout. This is Friday, May 30th, 2014. I'm Mike Huberty, Artist Services at Broadjam, and with us is our CEO and fearless leader, Roy Elkins.
Hello, everyone.
So let's start out today. We know we've had a few questions and stuff, but let's start out today with a question from Broadjam member Toby Toon. And let's go back in and see what Toby asked. All right. And so, hold on, let me find it again. He had a particular question about IC. Now, Toby was wondering about the same providers on our site hearing people's music more than once. Now, if you're not quite familiar with Broadjam, what we do is we connect independent musicians, like the people probably watching it, with music supervisors and publishers. And some of the music supervisors and publishers on our site remain anonymous, and some of them will show their name. Now, Roy, why do you think some people would remain anonymous and some people would not?
Well, there's a couple things. One, I think that many will not even work with us unless they remain anonymous. They want to make sure that they're not just bombarded. But some of them do. I mean, we have several of the providers that do. Rex is a good example of that. But for the most part, I think the supervisors, they don't want to answer 1,000 emails. And as soon as they become known, they could be dealing with a lot of direct emails. From our members or other members who just maybe happening to log in and see some names. It's hard to get people to do that. We do have more coming on that we're gonna that have agreed to let us use their names. But with that said, just about every one of our providers is a pro reviewer. So for the most part, every pro reviewer provides us a listing or two at one time or another. So if you need to look up and see who our providers are, just go to our pro reviewer list and you'll see who most of them are. I hope that answers your question.
I think that's a good start. Thank you, Roy, for saying that. That's a good reason as to why some of the providers wouldn't necessarily want their names in there. And I'm the guy that puts the listings up, and I've asked. I'm like, hey, can we use your name? Can we do this? And they'll be like, last time I tried to do that with a website, they just got bombarded with people putting MP3s into their email. And that's the thing we want to avoid, because having the contest mechanism and the music licensing mechanism the way that we do it is one of the reasons people like to work with us, so that they don't get MP3s in their email. So they don't get just links to random sites. They want to have it in a nice, organized way. Yeah. But the second part of the question is that Toby was wondering if his songs are being heard the same time, by the same publisher multiple times. And that's one of the things he was worried about, the anonymous thing. Do you want to talk about that for a second, Roy, or you want me to jump on it?
Well, yeah, no, I can go ahead and I'll give you my thoughts, and you can certainly add your thoughts as well. I mean, there are times you want to submit the same song to the same publisher or to the same supervisor or agency or whoever's looking for the content, simply because they have a different project. Now, if the song has already been signed to that publisher, we won't allow you to submit it. So if the song's already been, selected by the publisher, you'll be rerouted. I'm not sure exactly what the terminology is that we use, Mike. Maybe you could elaborate on that. But for the most part, the people that we work with in the industry, including ourselves, we're constantly working on different projects. So while one publisher may turn you down 10 times in a row, it's not simply because they don't like the song. It's the project didn't work for their particular application or their particular project they were working on. So that's really the main reason why we allow you and enable you to submit to the same provider over and over again. Okay,
and that's one of the reasons why we allow you to. And let me jump in and tell you the reasons why when we don't allow it. And I usually make the call on that. And that's when something is the same genre to a provider more than once. So if a provider was just looking for country songs for a library or something. And we can get into the difference between music libraries, what a publisher does versus what a supervisor does, if people have a question on that.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to just jump in. And remember, anybody, if you have a question, I mean, you can either put it on the event, you can jump into the Hangout and ask us live, or you can just put it in too, it's fine. But I know we got a bunch of people watching on YouTube now. I can see the numbers. So if you do have some more questions, just bust them in. But if a provider is looking for country songs, you know, a month ago, and now is looking for country songs this month, then we make sure to that you cannot send the same song twice. And we do that just because they've already heard that particular country song. And if they didn't, you know, if it didn't go for it the first time, then we don't allow it. So if it's a general call, that's when we try to prevent people from sending the same song twice. If it's something specific, like last month they said they wanted a high-energy electronic music song for a particular ad. Now this month they need another electronic music song. We won't disallow that because that opportunity from last month, that was that ad. Now this one is a brand new ad and your song might be right for it. So that's kind of how we try to prevent the same person hearing the music more than once. So, and to get to the rest of that question, Toby wrote a whole paragraph here. And he suggested that we possibly identify each one by an anonymous name, such as Maestro or Popman. And that's an interesting idea to have.
We should discuss it.
Yeah, that's a thought. I get to be the maestro though. That's what I'm not a provider, but that's what I would want to be, the maestro. Just a Seinfeld flashback. Okay, so we just had a couple new viewers jump on. Hello and welcome to the Broadjam Music Licensing Hangout. Please, you can ask your questions directly in the event on Google+. And I might want to jump to the YouTube too, because sometimes people put their questions in the comments on the YouTube. But while we do that, why don't we discuss some of the other burning questions we've had this week? And I tell you, I had lunch with a Broadjam member today, and just before we started this. And one of the things he was talking about, he had some questions about some of our deals and questions about non-exclusive versus exclusive. Roy, I'm going to check the YouTube, and can you jump and mention a little bit about the difference between non-exclusive and exclusive for anybody who might be wondering?
Sure. There's a couple different types of publishing deals. One is a non-exclusive deal. The other one is an exclusive deal. Let's talk about exclusive. When you sign an exclusive publishing contract with somebody, that means they're the sales agent of that song, meaning they're the only ones that can sell it, or the only ones that can place it, and they're the only ones that are going to draw any commission or performance royalties or share in the sync fees with you as the writer. Now, you always get your writer's share, the 50% writer's share, and if you make a little better deal, maybe it's 50% of the publishing side as well. So, but an exclusive relationship means you have one publisher pitching your songs. Now, what has happened in the last few years is that there are non-exclusive relationships seem to be more prevalent than they used to be years ago. So you might not only want one person shopping your music. So you sign a non-exclusive relationship with several publishers. And to be honest with you, I would recommend that because then now you have 4 or 5 different people shopping your music. The problem that you may run into down the road is, what if somebody wants to give you an advance and offers you cash up front for an exclusive relationship? Well, where it runs into a problem is now you have 3 or 4 non-exclusives out there. You got to go back to those publishers and get out of those contracts. So that's really one reason you might not want to do a non-exclusive relationship. But this is how I would approach that. I would cross that bridge when I come to it, because the chances of that happening are not great. There's not many publishing deals signed compared to those that aren't signed. So what I would do is, maybe get a couple people out there shopping you non-exclusive, make the terms, 3 to 5 years, and then it reverts back to well, then the term of the contract is over. That's how I would approach it.
Okay, that's a very nice way to put it, Roy, and a great answer. And just that is one of the burning questions we get almost every single week. The difference between a non-exclusive and exclusive publishing contract. Thank you for that. And now we've got some questions from our people.
Mike, I would just add, if your entry level non-exclusive is probably the way to go to get your music shared by people in the industry who are shopping. If you've been around the block a long time, you probably can choose the right publisher to represent you. Okay.
That sounds perfect, and I like the little straight talk there. Is that non-exclusive is just fine if you're just starting out. Remember, you're building your team of professionals that are going to help you in your music career.
Exactly. Yep.
And we're here to help you build that team. We all want to see you succeed. And we got a bunch of questions just launched at me here. Okay, so a few of this is from Kay Moore. Hello, Kay. From 4 More Studios, and it looks like Northern Illinois University, NIU. Absolutely, DeKalb. I've played at Otto's in DeKalb and had an excellent time at that club. And here's the question they ask, Roy. A few of songs have been placed into the marked for consideration field for several different publishers. This is great. However, none of them have been selected for placement. What do you think I can do to get over that hump of finally being selected?
Well, I think there are a couple things. One, I'll be more specific with Broadjam, and then the second part of this answer is a little more general. But one is listen to the songs that are selected. They're selecting those songs for a reason. And maybe there's certain characteristics of your song that are slightly different. And go through and listen to the selected songs. One of our frustrations is sometimes the songs selected don't make any sense to us at all. Sometimes on the other end, the provider is saying they got a better idea than they had initially. The other thing that I stress to everyone is if you're trying to get your music into film and TV, find out what the top 10 shows are, the top 20 shows, and listen to the music that is being placed. And I've probably said this in these Hangouts before, but if you're writing death metal with angry, vulgar lyrics, the music is just not going to get licensed. Listen, so if you're outside the box of what is getting placed on these top 10, top 15 shows, your chances are a lot slimmer. But watch the shows, listen to what the music is that's being played in those shows, and then compare that to what you're doing. But we all think our music can be placed in television or in films. I mean, every song I've ever written or every song on the planet, there's a place for it in some show somewhere. But the most important thing is to increase your odds. Write with originality, but write in the style that's being licensed today.
That's if I just add to that, that's a great way to put it. As far as pay attention to what's out there, and Kay, in your particular, from when I've worked with the providers and we see all the ones that are considered, we see the ones that are selected. What I'd like to say is that if you get considered, it means you're really in that right direction. That's also a good omen for your production quality.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know that when we listen to some songs and stuff like that, you're considering things that are right there, that are in the ballpark, and the final thing might be something small, might be just someone had a little bit closer to what they were looking for.
Yeah.
But I would say is your considered songs, those are the ones that are on the right track. Those are the ones that I'd submit more probably, or those are the ones that I would be encouraged by. That. So as far as the hump, listen to your considered song, listen to the selected song. Try to glean that difference. And then try again.
And remember, the providers, they're going to make their decisions pretty quickly. When they listen to the songs, probably within 15 or 20 seconds, they've made their decision. So make sure, the production quality is there, as Mike was saying. And if your songs are being considered, the production quality probably is there. It may just be an artistic preference from the provider's point of view. That's it. And so far, maybe there just isn't a match, and they don't want to select a song unless there's a match. It could be that simple. But congrats on being considered.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay,
and that's one of the reasons we have the considered, is just so you know if you're on the right track. I don't know if there's anybody else that even does, that has a considered versus selected type thing. So that's one of the reasons we have that feature there.
Yeah, and we really want people to use the mechanism as a tool to learn. And I think that's something that we don't stress it enough. But using the tool as you get to find out what's selected, you get to find out what works. So sometimes, Roy was saying watch the top 20 shows, and that's a good one. But some of that quality, some of those production tricks and things like that might be out of your reach. But in a lot of the songs that are selected, it's not extra production tricks, it's not extra quality. It's right in there, and just listen to those little things. And try to use it as a learning tool, because this is the only place you're gonna see that, and we just really encourage you to do it, because we've had people get better as a result of this particular process. Okay. Oh, that's right. Kay says Autos is awesome. Very good. Next question is from Randy Sauer. Randy from Hayes, Kansas. All right. Hello to Hayes, Randy. Hope you're having a good time. I have submitted songs to a couple of listings for children's, and they listened to 200 to 300 songs and didn't pick any songs at all. I've been told by people that are in the industry that these are just bogus listings. Is this true? And when I spend money on submitting a bunch of songs, this kind of irritates me. Yeah, I mean...
yeah, I don't know what to even say that, Randy. Of course they're not bogus listings. We've placed a lot of music over the years. I think probably 6,200 licenses now. We have a running count. We try to make our system as transparent as we possibly can, and we've been told by our members over the years that it's by far the most transparent system that they use. So, there are people in the industry that don't use sites like us, or even some of our competitors. So maybe that's why but I can't really answer that question. But Mike, maybe you can elaborate a little, because you actually do post the listings and
absolutely
grab them.
Yeah, I can tell you, Randy, that none of these listings are bogus, because I'm the guy that reads the emails, and playing a little defense here. I mean, I used to submit to Broadjam. I used to submit to sites like us and things like that with my music, and I've done the exact same thing. And so when I started being the guy who was getting these listings and talking to the publishers and talking to the supervisors, and I tell you what, if somebody listened to 300 songs from Broadjam artists and didn't pick a single one, if that happened several times in a row, I would talk to them. And this has happened in the past where we've worked with some providers who've ran a bunch of listings with us, and over the course of a period of months, they didn't pick anything. And if you don't pick anything from our artists, obviously it's not a good fit. And so we've asked those providers not to work with us anymore. But I can, but I can tell you that every single one of those, we try to get them as close to what the people are looking for as we can. And I read the emails that they come from. I ask them about them. I ask them for clarification and examples. And there's not a single listing on our site that I would say have been thought about and has not been vetted before we put it up from somebody who's had a ton of success in the music industry. So I appreciate, and I totally understand how you feel, because I'm a guy that's submitted 100 times and been selected a few, and I don't obviously submit to Broadjam anymore because I have the listings. But I mean, it's something that I've done in the past, and I've been through the exact same process. And if you have questions about that, I want you to. You can email me at mike@broadjam.com. You can email Roy at roy@broadjam.com, and we will answer your questions. We'll call you back when we have a chance. We'll do whatever we can to try to help you with your music. So,
yeah, you know, if you have something you feel is a good match, and that you know, maybe it just needs a second listen. As Mike will tell you, I listen to a lot of music every day. I know he does. Just send us a note and say, hey, can you take a listen to this and see if we're off base? You know, sometimes we can't get everything, but you know, we like to provide as much feedback as we can. But also remember that, you know, we're just the conduit. That's all we are. We're just trying to connect point A to point B. And as Mike says, we have let several providers go. If they don't pick something after they've worked with us for a couple of months, then we have to move them on, because we want our members to get licensed.
And it's and it's not just that. It's like you said, with the conduit, and that's, I mean, that's the point. Like, sometimes things like, remember when we used to send packages in the mail, you know, and I still do that to clubs sometimes. And with clubs, like, I don't even know if that person ever listened to it, or you get a call, and I mean, here's a good example. There was a punk rock laundromat in Dallas called the Bar of Soap. Their booking person showed up at 11 p.m. on Monday, which meant the only way you could get in touch with that booking person is to call them at 11 p.m. Central Time on Mondays to try to get a show at the Bar of Soap. And it was cool. It was a punk rock laundromat, and they had bands and touring bands. But like that, because of places like that, we're trying to take the BS out of that process and make it so your music gets from point A to point B in the most efficient way possible. And if there's a better, you know, when we think of an idea to make it better, we absolutely will.
Well, and here's another thought for Randy as well. You know, we have pro reviewers on the site, and I always encourage, and I know Mike encourages our members to do this as well. If you submit 5 or 6 times and you're not getting selected, or 10 times, or whatever that number is, whatever the right number is for you, you know, maybe submit to one of the pro reviewers that are aligned with your genre and get some feedback directly from one of the decision makers. You can pick who it is. They send you. We require them to, I don't know how many characters we require them, but they give very thorough reviews of your music, and maybe they can shed some light on it. And in the long run, that'll save a lot of time and money. But I would encourage that if you're not getting picked, then maybe try one of those and submit directly.
Yeah, 100 times that, 100 times the pro reviewers, because they're super honest, they pay attention, and a lot of these guys are the people who are picking songs, and all of them have worked. All of them worked with some amazing names. You know, I remember that when we were writing up the pro reviewer list, and like one guy's like that was my favorite album in 7th grade. You know, like those particular kind of things, like that's a real opportunity to get some feedback. Yeah. So good luck, Randy, and always, if you have questions about it and any particular thing and concerns, just send us an email and we will respond to you. Okay, now let's keep going. Now, Colin asks something similar. Is there anything in place to make sure these opportunities are real and that the industry people aren't just making money off Dropbox fees? That's one of my fears with services like Broadjam and Music X-Ray. I mean, Colin, that's exactly what we were just talking about, was that every person we work with has a proven track record of getting Broadjam artists placed in something real. Not, you know, it's not a college film. Not that we wouldn't take college films if they're interested, you know, but it's in a real television production. We talk to these people, we check their bios, we check their references. Anything to add to that, Roy? That, you know, like, it's not just, you just don't show up as a Broadjam provider. We go through it and we check your stuff.
Well, and we get this question occasionally, and there's a reason we pay the providers to listen to the music, and that is better than not paying them. We pay them a fee to listen to every song submitted. Now, they don't have to listen to the whole song, because obviously we all know if the guitars are not in tune, the singer can't sing, or if the production quality just doesn't meet the standard that they're looking for. But we actually pay them a fee to make sure that every song is being listened to. And by the way, if they don't listen to every song, we don't pay them. So, while others may not like that policy, that's one that's been in place since we started this, because it guarantees to us that we can guarantee our members that they're going to be heard. And so that's why we do that.
Yeah, and I'd say, too, that the reason we know that a lot of these things are real is that we get reports from the providers when they have placements. So it's like, we talk to them every couple of months, like, okay, and it's like a what have you done for me lately kind of, and but it's like, hey, what have you done for Broadjam artists lately? We want to tell them about that. We want to let people know about that. So the safeguard against it is we double check on this, and if we felt like that anybody wasn't getting the success that we were looking for, we drop them.
And Mike, I would add that if I understand skepticism. I understand that whole process. I'm a musician too. Mike's a musician. And that's why I would say go to the pro reviewers. And therefore you know who you're submitting to. Now you can't submit as much, obviously, because they're a little more expensive, but you're going to get direct feedback on, and I might even do that first. I don't submit through any site, obviously, for various reasons, but the point is that get some professional feedback if you're not sure that you're just wasting your money. So, pay somebody to listen to your music, get that feedback, then you can determine whether or not you should move forward. In every profession, that's what you do, and there's no reason you shouldn't do it here. So, if you're skeptical, that's the route you should take.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, Roy. So, thank you for the question, Colin.
Yeah, that was a good question, Colin.
Let's keep going. And Jonathan Ditto said he was offered a placement on a good catalog. They want 100% of the publishing. I would like to know of some language to use to counter on the publishing without scaring the company offer away. Could you give any tips on how to approach that situation? Thank you.
It's a great question. Remember, is it Jonathan? Is that who you said it was?
Jonathan Ditto.
Jonathan, yeah, every contract is negotiable. Every single contract. You approach them and you say, listen, I'd prefer not to give up all my publishing. Could I give up 50% of it? So, they may say yes, they may say no. If they believe they can license it right away, it's likely they might say yes. If they think they have projects coming up down the road and they're not really sure whether they can get it placed right away, they may tell you, no, we need 50% or we need half the song because we just don't know, and we're going to be doing a lot of pitches. But it really depends on where they are in the process. And that's not the main point, but the main point I guess I'm trying to make here is that every single contract is negotiable. Every single one. So never be afraid that you're going to scare somebody off if you're going to just because you're negotiating.
That's a good point. And I would say there's never anything wrong with, especially, I know they're expensive, but you should have lawyers. At least look at it, or at least do your best to go into every single situation with all the information that you possibly can. And a lot of that time with these contracts, that involves legal advice.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. So often as independent musicians and writers, we forget that we can negotiate. We don't have to sign anything. And if somebody's really hot on your stuff, they will negotiate. If they're lukewarm, yeah, maybe that tells you something. Maybe it isn't the right fit for you.
But also, don't worry about scaring anybody away. They'll just, it's okay to, they make you an offer. They say, hey, here's our publishing contract. And sometimes they might be like, okay, well, we'll adjust part of the contract. And then sometimes they'll just be like, no, this is the offer, take it or leave it. And that's okay. The thing is, nobody's going to not, and everybody's afraid You know, it's like this. Like, oh, if I approach people the wrong way and stuff, these guys are professionals. If you get a good song, the fact that they're going to sign it in the first place means that it's good. That means it's better than 90% of everything else that's out there.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it too much. But it's okay. I mean, just don't be a jerk. The way not to scare publishers and companies and supervisors away is to be easy to work with, not be a jerk. You're not being a jerk by saying, well, here I'd like to negotiate, and here's this, and then it's up to them. But nobody's going to rescind a contract just because you tried to negotiate. At least nobody that we work with.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And by the way, if they do that, please let me know and let Mike know.
Yeah, right. If they just said, like, if they took
if they go tell you to pound sand, you know, and won't even talk to you about it, just let us know, because that's not the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish here.
No, but I think what will happen is either they'll say this is a standard contract, or they'll talk to you. But nobody's just going to tell you to get lost.
Yeah.
Pound sand. I haven't heard that one in a long time. It's a good one, right? Okay.
My generation used to say that all the time.
Well, that's cool. Let's go to Tim Yeaman. Y-E-A-M-A-N. Yeah, man. Tim is from, well, he doesn't have any of his contact information as Google+. But Tim wants to know, is there a minimum amount of time that providers have to listen to a submitted song?
Yes, Tim, that's another good question. We've set it up so they have 4 choices: 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and the full song. Most of them select the 20 to 30 seconds. We have a couple that actually listen to the full song, but it's usually 20 to 30 seconds. And like I said earlier in this conversation, anybody with ears knows within 20 to 30 seconds whether, you know, the production meets the standards. Now, what most of them do is they'll go through and mark the songs at just based on production quality. So they'll listen to 100 songs. They can get through 100 songs pretty quickly at 20 or 30 seconds a clip. Then they'll turn around and go back and start listening to a longer version of the song to determine whether or not the artistic quality is there. So that's part of our back-end system. And by the way, they also have a scale they can mark it on a scale of 1 to 10. So they might mark one song an 8, another one a 7, another one a 9. So when they go back and listen the second time, they can start with the best at the top.
Yeah, and so I would say that, I mean, everybody listens to at least a good portion of the song to determine, you know, if this is recorded on a 4-track versus if this is recorded in a real studio. And they get that, bust through it, just like Roy said, and then they come back to their favorites, and then it keeps on whittling down from there. And a lot of people will see, it's like, oh, the provider listened to my song, you know, 3 times, 4 times. That's because they kept on going through that process. To listen a little more each time, because it starts out with sound quality. I mean, it probably starts out with genre. You got to make sure it's appropriate. The kind of music's appropriate. Then it goes to sound quality. Does this one's song sound great? And then you get to songwriting. Is this a great song? I mean, we all listen to the radio. We know that stuff on the radio sure sounds good, but it may not be a good song. We've all heard it. Nicki Minaj, I'm looking at you. No, I like the Starship song. Okay. But, okay, we hope that answers your question, Tim.
Mike, when you make a reference to 4-track, you're sounding just as old as I am.
I know. I realized that today when I was mentioning something to somebody, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, it sounds like it was recorded on a 4-track. 4 tracks are on our phones now. You can record, I mean, GarageBand on the iPhone. You can do like a full, somebody recorded a whole album in that. Okay. Next question. Okay, Jonathan said, thank you, great response. I appreciate that, gives me more confidence. Good, Jonathan. I hope you do really well. I hope you get the contract signed, and I hope you get something out of it. That's
and Jonathan, always feel free. You can send us emails, Roy at Broadjam or Mike at Broadjam. We'll be happy to answer questions if we can. Sometimes we just can't answer a question like, why didn't they pick somebody, or, you know, why did they pick something completely different than the listing? I mean, that frustrates us too. But always feel free to contact us.
Yes.
And thank you for being a member.
Oh, Toby's got another question. Okay. Toby's question is, one of his songs was selected about 7 days ago. When should he expect to hear something?
Just pretty quickly. I mean, let's look into that, Mike, and make sure that.
Sure.
You know, yeah. By the way, that's a good question. It brings up another question. If you are selected and you don't hear from the provider, please contact us because we will be on them right away. We let one provider go about a year ago who was selecting a lot, but he wasn't following up. And eventually he did, but it just wasn't fast enough for us. So.
Yeah, I'd say, Toby, within a week usually. If it's longer than a week, just send an email because sometimes things slip through the cracks. Here's a big one, and we get this almost every single time with one of our providers. Spam box. Look in your spam box. We've had people miss out on getting on like the Discovery Channel and stuff like that because they don't look at their spam box, or they don't email us in time. They don't email something back, say, hey, I was selected, because that email was sent. It just ended up in the wrong box. Make sure you check everything. If it's a week, you don't hear anything, let us know. We'll follow up and you'll get it.
By the way, Mike, I don't know if you know, but I did a review of one of Toby's songs on liner notes, and I think I did mention that to you, Toby. I think we exchanged emails. So anybody else that's watching, if you, I have a blog called onlinernotes.com, just like liner notes, only put an on in front of it, and review music there and try to give my honest opinions. And Toby is one of our longtime members and an awesome composer, and did a review recently of one of his songs.
There you go. So send me, if you don't get something in the next couple of days, send me an email. We'll make sure we follow up.
Yeah. And
we'll get that taken care of. No problemo. Okay. Let's keep looking for questions. It's Jim Pfeiffer. Hello, Jim. Let's see where Jim's from. Oh, no contact information there. But where are you seeing the most demand for Broadjam services from your providers? Is it TV shows, film, or web productions? And where are you seeing the most increases? Start out right?
Yeah, I think it's film and TV, certainly. You know, we go through periods with advertisers and web productions and game companies, and it all depends on our contacts there and if they stay or leave or move on. But our contacts are pretty solid in film and TV.
Yeah, that's true. And I would say that the film and TV, because that TV mostly because they are using a ton of music now, and they're paying for it. They're not paying a ton of money, but they're paying for it. So, like, these reality shows are the best thing that could happen for independent musicians, because you take a show like Duck Dynasty or Keeping Up with the Kardashians or The Real World. The Real World uses like 25 to 30 different artists in every single episode. 25, and that's like a 22-minute show. And half the time they'll put a little, a Chiron credit, the character, a computer-generated, little lower third. Hold on, let me get the, where am I here? Okay, like a lower third in the corner. And these TV, it's an unbelievable amount of music used in reality shows. So, I love it. I think it's great. Right?
Yeah, I agree. Our primary outlet is television. We do quite a bit of film, and we're constantly looking for the right agencies and the right other companies. Even we have some corporate stuff once in a while. But keep looking through the site. And by the way, we divide them up on the site, so it's pretty easy to find them with our system.
Yeah. But I would say, right now there's a lot of stuff on TV, a lot of stuff. The big media, at least that's because they have a budget, and that's kind of, a lot of the people who are looking through songs from Broadjam, they're hungry for some of that budget. They want to make money for them and you with the right song. So, yeah, that's where it is. And web series, sometimes there'll be some good payouts between $1,000 and $1,500, and they'll be looking for something for some bigger productions. But generally, it's back to film and TV. And video games, there's a market in video games now too. But we haven't seen a ton of growth there. So thank you very much, Jim, for your question.
That was a good question.
real quick, oh, from one of our providers, someone that we work with, is also watching the Hangout. Our man Doug Diamond. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Doug.
He works with the Song Hunters, and they've been awesome with us for the past few years. He says he wanted to say one thing as a music supervisor. Here's a quote I tell people all the time. It's become my prism that I look through when considering music for any project I work on. As a music supervisor, my job is not to find a place for the song. My job is to find a song for the place.
Huh.
Do you see the difference?
Good point. Good point. Thank you for that, Doug.
Yes.
That's really good insight.
And it's about the kind of it's about fitting, you know, making sure that it's a perfect song for the thing. If you guys have watched any of True Detective, was an HBO show that was out earlier this year with Matthew McConaughey, still totally skinny from that Dallas Buyers Club, and Woody Harrelson. Great show. T-Bone Burnett, the musician, was the music supervisor for the entire show. And it's supposed to be Louisiana and real rural Louisiana and gothic crime and a real southern gothic. I mean, and he found all kinds of music for it, but the whole thing was that you could see the scene they filmed, and the music fit perfectly. So when things are, you know, it's not a music video, it's not pictures to fit the song, it's song to fit the pictures. So just thinking out loud there, because I was thinking about True Detective. Roy, have you seen True Detective?
No, I don't watch True Detective.
Okay.
I'm like the Matlock Murder, She Wrote type guy.
All right, understand. Hey, if Matlock was looking for music, if they did a review, oh, Andy Griffith's there. Never mind. That's gonna be. They gotta dig Matlock up. Okay.
Yeah.
So Colin Dyer has another question. This may be a stupid question, and Colin, there are no stupid questions here at all. It's okay. Like, we understand that there is no music business manual. There's that Donald Passman book, but that's 20 years old. 30 years old. The music business is the Wild West. There are no stupid questions. He wants to know, do you actively seek industry professionals to put up opportunities, or is it completely up to them to come to you?
I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, I spent 4 days in Nashville seeking professionals and contacts that I've known in the business for a while, and we will have 2 or 3 of those up within a couple of weeks. So we are constantly seeking different people. At the same time, many come to us. So the answer to your question, Colin, it's both. Now, if somebody comes to us that we don't know, like Mike said earlier, we have to check out their credentials, and because we don't just put up anything, we make sure that we're, that everybody we work with, if it's on the label side, that they've charted, they've had something that's been successful, but it's primarily film and TV, and that they're actually working on a real project in film and TV, or some really good web project or an agency or something like that. But for the most part, we do both.
Yeah, if people come to us with a good opportunity, we check it out, sure. And if it looks good, we'll go for it. But at the same time, we're sending out emails every single day to people who work in the industry, and we're trying to find new avenues, because we are people are finding success, and if we can help more of these music supervisors and publishers, we're going to do it with your music. Okay, Jonathan Ditto has another question real quick. On Broadjam, there are several ways to get the songs listened to on the site. What is the most productive way to get more listens? Is it peer review? Do you have any recommendations to get there? Now, Jonathan won through Songwriter Universe. That was a contest with Dale Kawashima, and that's how he's a Broadjam member. So Dale is one of our good buddies, and we've been working with him for years, and he's fantastic.
He's a great publisher as well. He's a song publisher as well.
Oh, yeah. Roy, you had a whole spiel about song listens to on Broadjam. Why don't you tell him that real quick?
Well, I think it's like any site, that there's a social component to it. The more people you're connected to and the more people you interact with will generate more interaction around your content. So, for example, connect yourself to 100 people. Just do that. and I would bet you're going to see your song listens increase. Endorse a few of the good artists. You'll see those endorsements reciprocated. Rate a few songs. Go into the review mechanism and actually review a few songs. Not only to give feedback to other artists, but what I find is when I review a song, it just makes me a better writer if I review it with a very discerning ear. So there's a lot of things you can do on the site. Just get connected to other people, participate in the site. And the people who participate the most in our website are the ones who get the most listens. And ironically, they're usually the ones who get the most success with our providers as well.
Yeah, that's right. I'd say because those are the people who are collaborating, who are paying attention, who are learning from it. And so we talked before about the site as a learning tool. You see somebody selected for an opportunity, go to that guy's or girl's page, say hi, say good song, you know, I was in the same opportunity, where'd you record yours, or who did the mixing, or, you know, get to know that person, because chances are they might be in the same genre and they might want to work together, you know.
That's a good point.
So but definitely do the reviews, connect to people, and then I mean, that'll go up, because I know when somebody connects to me, I'm like, let's see what that guy sounds like. I'll listen to every song they have.
Yeah, you know, it's one of the things that we really like, that I really like about Broadjam, and you know, obviously I'm a little partial to it, is that the community is so strong. I mean, every day I see people reviewing and giving feedback to each other through the social network that you just don't really see anywhere else. And these are people just offering opinions. And there isn't a day goes by that, you know, I'm connected probably 4,000 or 5,000 people on the site. And every day I get 2 or 3 people that send out a song to all of their connections and through our internal email, and they attach a song to it, and they just simply ask for feedback. Hey, tell me what you think of this. Am I on the right track? And I see that every day. And that's the way to get people to listen. Not just increase the number of listens, but to get people to listen to your song and give you unbiased feedback. Because, you know, when you don't know someone and you're just connected to them, they're going to tell you what they think. They're probably going to do it in a pleasant way, a nice way. They're not going to be harsh. But they're going to give you unbiased feedback. So get connected to people, write the song, produce it, and then maybe send it around to a few people, get some feedback, and that'll help you decide whether, you know, maybe it's not quite up to par yet. Maybe you need to tweak it a little. So, and that's the part about Broadjam that I like the most, is just how interactive the community is with each other.
Definitely. Use it as a site to get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's something that we don't necessarily stress enough. And we do talk about the apps of connecting with industry professionals. Number one, that's awesome, and that's what we're based around. But also connecting with each other so that you can learn more about your performance, you can learn more about songwriting, and so you can meet people. Roy, I don't know if you mentioned this because my internet went out for a second, but you always talk about the most successful songwriters on the planet, right? So the most successful songwriters of all time, how many of them were solo?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. Years ago, I pulled a list from someplace. I think it is either like Rolling Stone Top 100 Songs of All Time or ASCAP's. I can't remember where the list came from. And of the top 100 songs ever written that made this chart, whatever chart it was, 91 of them were co-written. 3 of the remaining 100, or the remaining 9, I'm sorry, were written by George Harrison. So my first thought was, if my name's not George Harrison, I got a 6% chance of having a song in the top 100 if I don't co-write it with somebody else. And just to, you know, there are very few hits today that are written by one person. And there's a reason for that, because just bringing somebody else into your thought process expands the song to areas you might not think about. So don't be afraid to co-write. Don't be afraid to invite people in to change the song, to give good ideas, because the more you co-write with others, the better you get. But the high percentage, you can pick any list of the top 100 songs, and I would bet that all the time more than 80 of them are co-written. So if you're writing by yourself, your chances are pretty slim. That doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that that's the odds.
And that's I think that's a great way to put it. I mean, especially if you look at the top 40 now. I wouldn't say there's one song in the top 40 written by one person. And you know, people have different opinions on the top 40. Right? It's not as good as it used to be. It's crap. Whatever. Blah blah. It's still selling records. You have to art aside. Art is beautiful, but what's been succeeding? And it's committees of songwriters. It's, you know, Dr. Luke and Friends. It's the Neptunes. It's NERD. There are teams of guys that put together these beats and girls. Sorry, I always use that generically.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
there's teams of people that put these beats together, and sometimes the stuff is so complex in the production that it's a production team. It's not even one person behind the boards. So this is a great place to meet people. Go out there, find ways to collaborate. In the 21st century, you don't have to be in the same town. You don't have to be in the same country or anything like that. I mean, that was the whole thing behind the Postal Service. You know, the Postal Service was a band of guys that never recorded. I mean, two guys that never recorded in the same studio. Just sent stuff back and forth, and didn't even go on tour for 10 years. Finally went on tour and they sold out arenas. So they're fine. But just to let you know, you don't have to. You don't have to go it alone. You can meet some people and work with them. Okay, now we have another question. Let me jump in here. Oh, Jonathan said great advice. Oh, Marquis. Hi, Marquis Miller. How you doing? Is a snippet of 4 or 5 songs good for submission, or are full-length tracks better? Roy?
I would not. Well, you know, that's a good question. I probably wouldn't submit a snippet simply because most of our listings are asking for something specific. Now, if they're just a publisher or something looking for general R&B or general country songs, maybe you might want to do that. But I think I probably, most of the time, in fact a high percentage of the time, I would submit just one track. Snippets are not a bad idea if it's somebody just looking to build you know, a collection or a library, something like that, and they're very specific about it. But very rarely do we get things like that. We do work with a lot of libraries and publishers, but they usually have one specific project in mind. Well, that's a good question. I don't think we've ever gotten that question.
No, we haven't. We haven't. So thank you, Marquis. But for most of the things, unless it's specifically an audition track, you do have, sometimes there's a thing for looking for composers. And they'll say, like, go ahead and send in snippets of 5 different songs inside a submission. Just, you know, hook something together. But usually they're looking for one awesome polished song, and one awesome polished song is really, that will get you in the door. That's what they're looking for. Okay, let's check again.
Let me interject there.
Absolutely, sir.
By the way, if you do get selected, it may not hurt to, you know, communicate, then send the collection of snippets to the publisher or to the supervisor, whoever you're dealing with. Send them the snippets after the fact if you are selected and you start communicating with them. It's not a bad idea to have the snippets ready to go.
No, absolutely. And remember when they used to, I mean, when people used to buy singles, not on iTunes, there would be on one side there would be the actual recording, and if they didn't have a B-side, they would have like a preview of an album. So they would have like 3 choruses hooked up together. And that kind of lets you know that there's other great songs coming soon. So use that, absolutely. Like if you got a bunch of hooks, put them together and make a reel and put it on, you know, put it on your Broadjam and say, here's a best of. You can get me. Listen to this, and you can get me in 5 minutes, and you can hear all my best stuff. One more question. It is getting to be. It's about 10 after 3, so we got time for one more, and this one's going to come from Steve Bannock. Steve Bannock is from Madison, Wisconsin, Stack Trace Music.
Yeah.
Hi. You know Steve, Roy?
Oh, yeah. See, he's great. He's a great composer.
Okay. I haven't met Steve yet, but I look forward to it.
He's a good composer. Yeah.
So Steve's wondering what our opinion is on blanket music licenses that are offered by music libraries.
Are you talking about blankets from the library to the network, or from the songwriter to the library? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what he's asking.
Well, let's do library to the network,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
that's an interesting sentence. Maybe we can explain that real quick. That a lot of publishing libraries and music libraries they'll get one fee, like a buffet, from ESPN or the WWE network or something like that, and they pay them one fee, and they are entitled to all the music they want from that library, and you are paid out of that fee instead of some like $150 per song or something like that. So let's start with that explanation, Roy. Like what we think about that. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a good thing. Well, it probably drives the price of the license down per track. It it opens up a lot more possibilities. As we as the technology expands, I mean, there's 500 television networks now, or television channels. There's going to be 1,000 or 10,000 in the next 10 or 20 years. In fact, I don't even know if we'll look at them as channels. They'll probably be solo performances somewhere on the web or solo shows. So there's going to be thousands and thousands of opportunities. So when you think about a library having to pitch to each one of those, it behooves them and their writers to just go to an MTV or go to a Discovery Channel and just write a blanket license, and they'll say, we're going to pay, the network will say, we're going to pay you, Mr. Library, X amount of dollars per year, and we get to use as much content as we want. Or there's a limit to the amount of songs they can license. And I think that's a good thing, because the prices are coming down per placement. But there's going to be a lot more placements. And there's more placements today than there was 5 years ago, and there's certainly a lot more than there was 15 or 20 years ago, just because of the size of the market now is just getting bigger and bigger for songwriters.
I think that's a good point, and I also want to bring up that the reason this is a good thing is because more of independent music is going to be put into these shows, because there'll be more opportunities for them. They're not going to necessarily have to go to a major label or an affiliated major label publisher to get at a certain kind of song, because they'll be like, look, we already have an agreement with this library. Your song's in that library. You have a great chance of getting picked, as opposed to having the regular major label song getting picked, which they now have to go out of their way to get. So I agree with Roy 100%, and I think it's a good thing for musicians. Now, Roy, blanket deals from a publisher to an artist. Any thoughts on that?
Well, generally what happens is they're not really referred to as blanket deals. At least that's not the terminology you hear a lot. You might hear it once in a while. Generally, from a publisher to a writer, it means a publisher might give a writer an advance and say, I need 10 to 15 songs over the next year. So if you write a deal, and it's not really referred to as a blanket, it's just simply a publishing deal, where they might give you an advance of $10,000 or $20,000, and your job is to write 10 songs for them or 10 pieces of music over the next year. So obviously, those are the deals you want, because nobody's going to give you that kind of advance unless they're sure. First of all, they're very confident in you, and second of all, that they think they're going to be able to license the music that you provide for them. So that's a great question, Steve. And I'd like to know too, if you want to send me an email, if you've been offered one of those, I'd love to see the contract.
Okay. Well, it looks like we've got to everybody's question. So thanks to everybody who's watching.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
And we'll just probably do another one of these very soon. We'll just keep on answering questions, and a lot of times, you'll see if you watch the previous Hangouts that we are going over some of the same information as we have in previous Hangouts. But we want to make sure you get that information, and every time we've done this, we've had new people watching. So this is your first time. Follow us on Google+, say hi on Facebook, facebook.com/Broadjam. Come to Broadjam and email us with any questions, mike@broadjam.com and roy@broadjam.com. And whatever you guys need. So thanks very much for watching. We'll be in touch. let us know if you have any questions. And everybody have an awesome weekend and a great beginning of June.
Thanks for being members. We appreciate it.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.